The transport shuttle made a soft humming sound as it docked with Nexus Prime Educational Station. Jake Morrison looked out the small window at the massive space station floating in the darkness. Stars scattered across the black sky like tiny diamonds. He took a deep breath and picked up his small bag. Today, he would start a new life. Jake was 22 years old, which made him older than most new students. His fake school record said he came from a quiet farming planet called New Eden. The records showed he spent his time growing crops and studying peaceful subjects. None of it was true, but no one needed to know that. The space station was huge. More than 10,000 students from 47 different alien species lived and studied here. It was the best school in known space. Ships came and went constantly, bringing students from across the galaxy. The hallways buzzed with strange languages and the sounds of different alien species talking to each other. Jake walked through the main entrance, trying to look like any other new student. He wore the standard blue academy uniform that all first-year students had to wear. His short brown hair was neat and clean. His green eyes looked calm, but inside, old habits made him check every corner and exit without thinking about it. A tall, thin alien with purple skin approached him. She had 3 eyes and spoke in a musical voice. "Welcome to Nexus Prime Academy. I am Administrator Kellix. You must be Jake Morrison from Earth." "Yes, that's me," Jake said with a smile. He had practiced this moment many times. "Excellent. Let me show you to your dormitory room. You will be sharing with another first-year student." They walked through corridors filled with students. Jake saw beings he had never imagined before. Some had scales, others had fur. Some were tall and thin, others were short and round. A few floated in the air instead of walking. Everyone seemed friendly and excited about their studies. His dormitory room was small but comfortable. 2 beds, 2 desks, and a large window that showed the stars outside. His roommate was already there, unpacking his belongings. "Hello there," the roommate said in perfect English. "I am Zix from Calaria Prime. You must be my human roommate." Zix was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. He had 4 arms, bright orange skin, and large yellow eyes that sparkled with curiosity. He was about Jake's height but much thinner. His movements were quick and energetic. "Nice to meet you, Zix. I'm Jake Morrison." "A human? How exciting." Zix's 4 arms moved as he talked, making his words seem even more enthusiastic. "I have read so much about your species. Earth sounds like such a peaceful place. All those beautiful farms and meditation centers. And your philosophers. I have studied human wisdom for years." Jake nodded and smiled, even though Zix's description of Earth sounded nothing like the planet he remembered. The textbooks taught in galactic schools painted humans as gentle farmers and deep thinkers. They left out the wars, the battles, and the soldiers who fought them. "Tell me about your home," Zix continued. "What was it like growing up on a farming world?" "It was quiet," Jake said carefully. "Lots of open fields and peaceful days." He had memorized stories about New Eden that matched his fake background. "We spent time thinking about life and growing food for our communities." "How wonderful. I come from a world of scientists and inventors. We love to build things and discover new knowledge. But sometimes I think your way of life sounds more relaxing." Over the next few days, Jake met other students in his classes. There was Vera, a brilliant engineer from the Syntheri species. Her skin looked like it was made of living crystal that changed colors when she talked. She communicated by making musical sounds, but she also spoke regular words when needed. Korth was a Thurian, standing nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and gentle brown eyes. His people were known throughout the galaxy for never fighting wars. They believed violence was wrong and always tried to solve problems by talking. Neela was perhaps the most interesting. She belonged to a species called the Voidborn, who could read thoughts and emotions. She had pale blue skin and silver hair that seemed to move by itself. She always kept her mental powers turned down around other students because, as she explained, most species think too loudly and feel too much. The Yard Academy taught many subjects. Students learned about diplomacy, which meant solving problems between different species without fighting. They studied alien biology to understand how different bodies worked. Cultural exchange classes taught them about the customs and traditions of various worlds. Peaceful conflict resolution showed them how to stop arguments before they became dangerous. Jake found the classes interesting but also frustrating. In his diplomacy class, Professor Helix talked about military strategy like it was just an old story from books. The professor was a Zentoran with smooth gray skin and no visible eyes. He spoke in a calm, wise voice about theoretical applications of historical warfare. As we can see from these ancient examples, Professor Helix said during one lecture, most species abandoned primitive warfare thousands of years ago. Civilized beings solved their differences through discussion and compromise. Jake had to clench his hands under his desk to stop himself from speaking up. The professor's ideas about warfare were completely wrong. Military strategy was not just history to Jake. It was something he knew better than anyone in that classroom, but he could not say anything without revealing his true past. The physical education classes were the hardest part of maintaining his fake identity. Every day, students had to exercise and take fitness tests. Jake had to be very careful not to show his real strength and speed. His body had been changed by years of military enhancement programs. He could run faster, jump higher, and fight better than any normal human. But if anyone discovered this, they would start asking questions he could not answer. During fitness tests, Jake deliberately ran slower than he could. He lifted lighter weights than his muscles wanted to. He held back his reflexes when they played simple sports games. It felt wrong to hide his abilities, but it was necessary. The medical checkups were also dangerous. Every student had to visit the health center for regular scans. Jake took special pills every day that hid the changes the military had made to his body. The medical scanners showed normal human readings, nothing unusual or suspicious. "Excellent health, Mr. Morrison," said Dr. Vash, the school's medical officer. She was a healer, a species known for their advanced medical knowledge. "Your physical condition is exactly what we expect from a human of your age and background." Jake smiled and thanked her. But inside he felt nervous. If she ever discovered the truth about his enhanced biology, his peaceful new life would be over. At night, Jake would lie in his bed and listen to Zix talk about their classes and the other students. His roommate was always excited about something new he had learned or someone interesting he had met. "I love it here," Zix would say. "Everyone is so different, but we all want to learn and grow together. Don't you think it's amazing how many species can live in peace?" "Yes," Jake would reply, "it's very peaceful." But as he fell asleep each night, Jake's dreams were filled with memories he was trying to forget. Battles in space, friends who had died fighting, and the weight of decisions that had determined the fate of entire worlds. He had come to Nexus, Prime Academy, to escape his past and learn how to be something other than a soldier. The question was whether he could keep his secret long enough to become the person he wanted to be. 3 months into the semester, Jake has settled into a routine of mediocrity. He maintains average grades, participates minimally in discussions, and has successfully convinced everyone that humans are exactly as harmless as the textbooks suggest. His biggest challenge comes from Neela, whose telepathic abilities occasionally pick up emotional echoes from his suppressed memories, though she attributes them to typical human irrationality. The peace is shattered when a group of Corvin exchange students arrives. The Corvins are a proud warrior species who view most other races as weak, but they hold particular contempt for humans, whom they consider soft prey animals playing at civilization. Their leader, Drex, immediately begins targeting Jake with psychological intimidation tactics. During a cultural exchange presentation, Drex publicly mocks human military history, claiming that humans have never won a real war and only survived through cowardice and surrender. Jake's hands clench beneath his desk as Drex describes human soldiers as pathetic creatures who flee at the first sign of real danger. The situation escalates when Drex corners Zix in the dormitory corridor, using his superior size and strength to intimidate Jake's roommate. Jake arrives to find Zix pressed against the wall, clearly terrified. Every instinct screams at Jake to intervene, but doing so would require revealing capabilities no ordinary human should possess. Instead, Jake tries diplomatic de-escalation, speaking calmly to Drex and attempting to diffuse the situation through reason. Drex responds by shoving Jake hard enough to send him sprawling, then laughs as he walks away. Zix is unharmed but shaken, and Jake has to excuse himself quickly to avoid letting his roommate see the cold fury in his eyes. That night, Jake stares at his hidden military decorations, the Silver Star, the Purple Heart, and the classified commendations from operations that officially never happened. He remembers his squad, the battles they fought, the friends he lost. The harassment from Drex and his Corvin followers grew worse each day. They no longer targeted just Jake. Now they went after anyone who showed him friendship. It was like a disease spreading through the academy, turning Jake's peaceful new life into a nightmare. Vera's engineering projects began mysteriously breaking. She would work for hours on delicate crystal circuits, only to find them shattered the next morning. Her skin would flash angry red colors, but she never complained. She was too kind to blame anyone directly. "It must be accidents," she would say sadly, cleaning up another destroyed invention. "Perhaps the gravity generators are unstable in the workshop." Jake knew better. He had seen Drex's followers lurking near the engineering labs. But when he reported it to the academy officials, they gave him the same useless response about cultural adjustment periods. Korth suffered worse treatment. During a friendly sports game, 2 Corvins accidentally crashed into the gentle giant, injuring his leg badly enough to require medical treatment. Korth, being peaceful by nature, insisted it was just an unfortunate collision. "Violence is never the answer," he told Jake while limping to the health center. "They will learn to be better beings with time and patience." Jake admired Korth's faith in peaceful solutions, but he also knew predators when he saw them. The Corvins were testing boundaries, seeing how much they could get away with before anyone fought back. Even Neela received threats. Someone had hacked her personal communicator to send messages filled with insults about telepaths. The messages came from anonymous sources, but Jake recognized the crude language patterns of Corvin speech. "My shields are strong," Neela told him quietly, "but the emotional hatred behind these words is disturbing. Whoever sends them enjoys causing pain." The Academy's response was always the same: patience, understanding, diplomatic solutions. Professor Helix actually suggested that Jake should embrace this challenge as a learning opportunity. "Great peacemakers are forged in difficult times," the professor said wisely. "Your human ancestors would be proud of your restraint." Jake had to leave the room before he said something that would blow his cover. His ancestors had not been peaceful farmers. They had been warriors who fought to protect the innocent. The restraint Professor Helix praised was actually eating Jake alive from the inside. 2 weeks later, the Academy announced a special field trip. All students would visit the orbital research platform that circled the Academy station. It was meant to be an exciting practical exercise in crisis management and teamwork. Jake felt nervous about the trip from the moment it was announced. Field trips meant being away from the controlled environment of the Academy. They meant unexpected situations and less supervision. In his military experience, that was when things went wrong. The research platform was smaller than the main Academy station. It housed scientific experiments and served as a training ground for emergency response drills. Students would be divided into mixed groups and given simulated crisis scenarios to solve. Jake found himself assigned to Group 7, along with Zix, Vera, and unfortunately, Drex. The Corvin had specifically requested to be in Jake's group, claiming he wanted to observe human problem-solving methods up close. Their instructor was Dr. Thane, an elderly Nexari who had been running these exercises for 20 years. He explained the rules in his calm, measured voice. "You will face a simulated emergency requiring teamwork and quick thinking. The scenario will seem real, but all safety systems are in place. Remember, this is about learning to work together under pressure." The exercise began simply enough. Their group was taken to a section of the platform designed to look like a damaged spacecraft. Alarms were flashing and recorded voices announced various system failures. The students were supposed to work together to repair the damage using the tools and information provided. Jake immediately saw several problems with the scenario setup, but he kept quiet and let the others take the lead. Zix began organizing their supplies while Vera analyzed the technical readouts. Even Drex seemed to be participating normally, though he made several comments about human incompetence. Then something went wrong. Real alarms began sounding, cutting through the fake emergency sounds. The lights changed from simulated amber to actual red warning signals. Dr. Thane's voice came over the communication system, but it sounded strained and worried. All students, please remain calm. We are experiencing a minor technical difficulty. Remain in your assigned areas while we resolve the issue. Jake's military instincts immediately kicked in. Those were not minor technical difficulties. The platform's emergency systems were activating for real. The air recycling units were making strange noises. The gravity felt slightly unstable under his feet. Through the observation windows, Jake could see emergency response ships approaching from the main academy station. But they were moving slowly, too slowly for a simple technical problem. What is happening? Zix asked nervously, his forearms fidgeting with worry. I am sure it is nothing serious, Vera said, but her crystal skin was flashing anxious yellow colors. Jake moved to one of the control panels and quickly scanned the readouts. What he saw made his blood run cold. Someone had sabotaged the platform's life support systems. The damage was precise and deliberate. This was not an accident or equipment failure. He glanced at Drex and saw something that confirmed his suspicions. The Corvin was watching the emergency response with satisfaction rather than concern. His red eyes held a look of anticipation, as if he was waiting for something to happen. Jake realized the horrible truth. Drex had sabotaged the platform during the exercise, intending to create a real emergency that would expose human weakness. The Corvin expected Jake to panic and prove that humans were cowards who could not handle real danger. The life support readings were getting worse. They had maybe 20 minutes before the air became unbreathable. The emergency response teams were still trying to get through sealed blast doors that had activated as part of the platform's safety protocols. Dr. Thane, Jake called into the communication system. What is our status? Do we need to evacuate? Static filled the response. Students, cannot reach your section. Blast doors sealed. Working on solution. Remain calm. Jake looked at his friends. Zix was becoming more nervous by the minute. Vera was trying to use her engineering skills to understand the control panels, but her training was theoretical, not practical. Even Drex was starting to look worried as he realized the situation was becoming genuinely dangerous, rather than simply embarrassing for humans. 20 minutes to live. His friends were looking to him for answers, but Jake Morrison, the peaceful farm student, had no solutions to offer. The tools and knowledge needed to fix this crisis belonged to Colonel Jake Morrison, the decorated war hero he had tried to leave behind. Jake stared at the control panels, understanding exactly what needed to be done. He could reroute the power systems using emergency protocols that were not taught in civilian schools. He could coordinate an evacuation using command techniques learned in actual combat situations. He could save everyone in this room. But doing so would reveal training and abilities that no ordinary human should possess. His carefully constructed new identity would be destroyed. The peaceful life he had sought would be over before it really began. Jake looked at Zix, whose large yellow eyes were wide with fear. He looked at Vera, whose crystal skin was now flashing desperate colors as she tried unsuccessfully to fix systems beyond her knowledge. He even looked at Drex, who was finally experiencing real danger instead of the controlled intimidation he was used to. These people had become his friends, even if he had tried to keep them at a distance. Zix, with his endless curiosity and kind heart. Vera, with her brilliant mind and generous spirit. Even Neela and Korth, who were probably in similar danger elsewhere on the platform. 18 minutes of breathable air remaining. Jake Morrison closed his eyes and made the choice that would change everything. When he opened them again, 15 years of military training and command experience came flooding back. His voice changed, becoming sharp and authoritative in a way that cut through the panic. Vera, I need you to access the secondary power grid using the emergency override protocols. Six, start gathering all the emergency oxygen supplies from the storage lockers. Drex, help me with the manual door controls. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Jake Morrison stopped pretending to be someone else. The peaceful, farm student disappeared, replaced by the decorated war hero who had saved lives and won battles across the galaxy. The only question now was whether his friends could accept the truth about who he really was. Jake's voice cut through the panic like a sharp blade. Vera, access the emergency power controls on panel 7. Use the blue override switches, not the red ones. Zix, check every storage compartment for oxygen canisters. Drex, help me manually. Open the ventilation system. His friend stared at him in shock. This was not the gentle farm student they knew. Jake's entire posture had changed. He stood straighter, moved with precise purpose, and spoke with absolute authority. His green eyes held a hardness that had never been there before. Jake? Zix asked uncertainly. How do you know about these systems? Questions later, survival now, Jake replied firmly. Vera, did you find the power controls? Vera's crystal. Skin was flashing confused colors, but she followed his instructions. Her fingers worked on the control panel with new confidence as Jake guided her through procedures not taught in any engineering class. There, she said, as emergency power flowed to the life support systems. The air recyclers are working again. But Jake, these techniques, where did you learn them? Jake was already moving to the next problem. The blast doors were still sealed, trapping them in this section of the platform. He examined the manual override mechanisms with expert eyes. Drex, he called to the Corvin who was standing frozen in a corner. I need your strength to turn these manual release wheels. Can you do that, or are you too scared? The insult snapped Drex out of his paralysis. He approached the blast doors, his massive hands gripping the emergency release wheels. Under Jake's direction, they managed to partially open one of the doors. Zix, contact the emergency teams, Jake ordered. Tell them we have restored partial life support and opened blast door 7. They can reach us through the eastern corridor. His orange-skinned roommate activated the communication system. Emergency teams, this is Group 7. We have fixed the life support and opened a path to our location. Dr. Thane's voice crackled through the speakers, filled with amazement. Group 7, how did you manage that? Our technical teams are still working on those same problems. Jake grabbed the communicator before anyone could answer. We had some lucky guesses, Dr. Thane. Please send medical support. We have some students who need attention. Within minutes, emergency responders flooded into their section. Medical. Teams checked everyone for injuries while technical experts examined the repairs Jake had directed. The platform was stabilized, and all students were evacuated back to the main academy station. But Jake knew his problems were just beginning. 2 days later, he received a message to report to Director Vex's office immediately. She was the academy's chief administrator, a tall Nexari with silver skin and eyes that seemed to see everything. Jake had avoided her attention for 3 months, but that time was over. Her office was filled with holographic displays showing technical reports from the platform incident. When Jake entered, she gestured for him to sit in the chair across from her desk. Mr. Morrison, she said in a voice like flowing water. Or should I say, Colonel Morrison? Jake's heart stopped. On her desk was a file marked with high security classifications. His real military record lay open for her to see. I don't know what you mean, Jake said carefully, though he knew it was pointless. Director Vex smiled slightly. Colonel Jake Morrison, hero of the Centauri campaign, survivor of the siege of Kepler Station, winner of the Galactic Medal of Valor at age 21, commander of the famous Ghost Squad that saved over 50,000 civilians during the Proxima evacuation. She turned the holographic display toward him. Images of battles, commendations, and classified mission reports filled the air between them. The youngest human ever to reach the rank of colonel, credited with developing new combat tactics that are still taught in military academies across human space. Officially listed as retired due to psychological exhaustion after 15 years of continuous combat service. Jake stared at his real life floating in front of him. How long have you Known? About 6 weeks, Director Vex replied calmly. Your background story was very good, but small inconsistencies eventually added up. The way you move, how you scan rooms for exits, your reaction times during seemingly innocent activities. Our security AI flagged you as a potential threat, which led to a deeper investigation. Are you going to expose me? That depends on you. She leaned back in her chair. I am curious about something, Colonel. Why is one of humanity's greatest war heroes pretending to be a simple farm student? Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to talk, really talk, for the first time in months. He told her about the wars that never made it into the peaceful textbooks the galaxy preferred. He described battles fought to protect colonies that most species never knew existed. He explained the weight of command, the responsibility for thousands of lives, the friends lost in fights that officially never happened. I was good at being a soldier, Jake said quietly. Too good. I could make the hard decisions, give the orders that saved lives but cost others. I won every battle I fought, but I lost pieces of myself with each victory. He described the breaking point, a mission where he had to choose between saving a civilian population or protecting his own troops. He had made the right military decision, but it had cost the lives of soldiers who trusted him. I saved 50,000 people that day, Jake continued, but 12 of my soldiers died because of my orders. Good people who followed me into hell because they believed in the mission. Director Vex listened without judgment as Jake explained his request for discharge, how he had sought the most peaceful place he could find, hoping to discover who he might be without constant warfare. I wanted to learn if I could be something other than a weapon, Jake finished. I wanted to see if Jake Morrison could exist without Colonel Morrison. And what have you learned? Jake thought about his friends, about the relationships he had, built while hiding his true self. I learned that peace is harder than war. In battle, the choices are usually clear. Protect your people, complete the mission, survive. But living peacefully requires trusting others, being vulnerable, letting people care about you. Your friends care about you, Director Vex observed. I have received several requests from students asking about your condition after the platform incident. They are worried about you. They don't know who I really am. Perhaps that is something you should change. That evening, Jake gathered his closest friends in their usual study room. Zix arrived first, his forearms carrying snacks and drinks. Vera came next, her crystal skin glowing with curious colors. Korth entered carefully, still favoring his injured leg. Even Neela appeared, having sensed that something important was happening. Jake looked at each of them, beings from different worlds who had somehow become the family he never expected to find. I need to tell you something, he began slowly, about who I really am. He told them everything, about the wars, the battles, the medals hidden in his storage container, about the soldiers who had died under his command, and the nightmares that still woke him some nights, about his choice to leave that life behind and seek something different. The reactions were mixed, but not what he had feared. Zix was amazed and proud. My roommate is a hero. This explains why you always know the right thing to do in dangerous situations. Vera was fascinated by the technical possibilities. Human, military engineering must be incredibly advanced. I would love to learn about your starship designs. Korth was troubled by the violence, but impressed by Jake's choice to seek peace. It takes great strength to turn away from war. Your decision to come here shows true wisdom. Neela, reading his emotions directly, finally understood the pain he had been carrying. You have been healing, she said softly. The peaceful person you are becoming is not fake. It is who you were always meant to be. The biggest surprise came from Drex. The Corvin appeared at their study room door, looking uncomfortable and ashamed. I came to apologize, he said awkwardly. I caused the emergency on the platform. I wanted to embarrass the human to prove that your species was weak. But when real danger came, I froze like a coward while you saved us all. Jake studied the alien warrior. Why are you telling me this? Because Corvin culture values strength above everything, Drex replied. I thought strength meant being the biggest and loudest fighter. But watching you during the crisis, I learned something new. Real strength is protecting others even when it costs you something important. He looked directly at Jake with new respect. You could have let us die to keep your secret. Instead, you risked everything to save people who had been cruel to you. That is a warrior's honor I do not possess. Director Vex allowed Jake to remain at the academy, but with new conditions. He began teaching a special course called Crisis Leadership and Emergency Response. He shared his knowledge in ways that might help others survive dangerous situations without glorifying the violence of his past. Jake kept his military decorations in a small display case now, not hidden, but not prominently featured. They represented who he had been, but they did not define who he was becoming. Months later, Jake stood in the academy's observation deck, looking out at the stars. Zix joined him, as he often did these days. "Do you miss being a soldier?" his roommate asked. Jake considered the question carefully. "I miss the friends I served with, and I'm proud of the people we saved. But I don't miss the weight of command or the constant fear of making the wrong choice." "And now?" Jake smiled, watching a new transport arrive with another group of students. "Now I'm learning that the greatest victory isn't winning a war. It's knowing when not to fight one, and helping others find their own peaceful paths." In the distance, new students were beginning their own journeys of discovery. Some might be running from pasts they wanted to forget. Others might be seeking futures they had never imagined. Jake knew that the academy and he would be ready to help them find their way. For the first time in years, Colonel Jake Morrison slept peacefully, surrounded by friends who knew exactly who he was, and accepted him anyway. The war hero had finally found something worth more than victory. He had found home.